Spy thrillers have been going through an awkward metamorphosis over the past few decades. During the Cold War, there used to be a very clear divide between films that followed the cool, suave campiness of James Bond and films that were played completely straight and serious, addressing some of the key fears that the American public had during the Cold War. Best examples that I could think of, like take a look at films at North by Northwest or The Manchurian Candidate. However, in the wake of some poorly produced and poorly received James Bond films, we had films like The Bourne Identity come out, and that more or less indicated a change in what people wanted from their spy thrillers. They didn't want the camp, they didn't want the cool, suave protagonist anymore. They wanted stories that were a little more grounded in realism, with an execution that took itself a little bit more seriously. This prompted the James Bond franchise to follow suit with the initial trilogy that kind of kicked off Daniel Craig's run, starting with Casino Royale and then coming to a head in Skyfall. I mention this because the obvious thing a lot of people pointed out when this film was announced is that we have Pierce Brosnan, the James Bond of the 90s and early 2000s, returning to the genre. This puts this film in a bit of an interesting predicament. Do they try to return to kind of the old campy style and emulate the Bond films of yore in everything but name only? Or do they go the Luc Besson route and try to create an action film franchise centered around a much older star, similar to how they did it with Liam Neeson with great success, and tried doing so with Kevin Costner and dive bombed completely? The only answer I can give is this. すみません。その小島さんですか? The Phantom Pain に集中してください。頑張れよ。The story of The November Man will probably make sense to those of you who have read the books that this film is based on. As for the rest of us, it'll feel like you're being thrown into the middle of the story as we're given a lot of elements and plot points that we're automatically expected to understand. The film breezes through what little exposition and establishment we're given and then starts introducing more and more plot details that just feel like they come right out of nowhere, like the writer wrote himself into a corner and had to come up with something in order for the story to continue. This also leads to a confusion about who our main character is. Is the main character Pierce Brosnan's character Peter Devereaux, or is the main character Luke Bracey's character Dave Mason? This is especially visible because of the numerous exchanges the two have. The whole idea of them talking about, oh, I still have lessons to teach you. Like, is this supposed to be a handoff film or what? And what doesn't help is that the narrative focus of the film is a little too widely spread. We're following too many different places at once, and it really needed to narrow it down, especially when it comes to telling us who the heck the main character is. The Kojima joke I made in the intro isn't even that much of a stretch because the story of this film is a convoluted mess. It comes across like a Metal Gear story, except without the cyberpunk, silliness, or any real notion of fun or likability. It does have the common threads of working in elements that were lifted from other films, as well as working in some genuinely creepy stuff for no real reason. From a technical standpoint, there's not really that much to say about the film. I mean, it's put together with a good degree of competence, although some action scenes in the film did approach the level of laughably bad that was last seen in the Tyler Perry Alex Cross movie. As for the acting, there weren't any particularly bad performances, but I can't help but feel that Brosnan's a bit out of place here. I mean, he did an okay job with the material he had, but when he's trying to be the more emotional, aggressive sort of spy, it's just not convincing. He can't even swear when he's trying to intimidate someone without having it sound forced. All in all, this film is a subpar paint-by-numbers spy flick, complete with plot holes, cliches, and dramatic twists. They may have had something here with the source material, but not really anything that could surpass any of the established franchises, nor really anything that could garner that much critical acclaim. It's an end-of-the-summer flick that's probably going to be faded from everybody's memories by the time the off-season horror films start coming out. If you're curious, wait for it to come to Redbox or Netflix. Don't pay full price to see this, not even at a dollar theater. There's just not too much here that hasn't already been done much better in other movies. That said, The November Man gets a 3 out of 5. So that's it for this episode of Romney's Reviews. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time.